It was tough to say this, and it was tough to think about this, but I'm going to have to say the hardest role is. Hey, what's up, guys? My name is JabsSkyWalker, but you can call me Jabs. For years, since the release of Overwatch in 2016, there's been one burning question from the community: which is the hardest role to play in the game? Well, I'm here to answer that. Now, of course, this is going to be an opinion, but I'm going to do my best to make it an opinion based on facts. There are three roles in Overwatch 2 if you don't know: tank, DPS, and support. I'll explain quickly what each one does. Tanks specialize in protecting allies, disrupting enemies, and holding down the front line. They have high survivability and abilities that protect themselves and teammates. DPS players are responsible for seeking out enemies and defeating them as fast as possible using the various skills their heroes have. And support players heal, buff, and provide utility through the game and help increase the survivability of their whole team. That was a very brief overview. Now, let's get into the facts. According to Overbuff.com, out of the top 10 players currently in the game right now, the top player is a support main. There are 6 tank mains and 2 DPS mains, and only one more support main. Now, does this say anything concrete? Well, since there are 6 tank mains in the top 10 players list, just based off these numbers, we may be able to rule that role out as being the hardest. Not giving a concrete answer just yet, but let's just think about the role as a tank for a second. I'm a tank main, and I certainly wouldn't say the role is easy, but harder than the others? I'm not sure about that. I mean, factually, you do have the most health, a way to protect yourself, and depending on the character, a way to escape. Now, of course, you are a giant meat shield and you will surely get targeted, especially if people can't aim at the other characters. Also, there's only one tank now, so I know as a tank main, a lot does fall on you to keep your team moving or have an objective. The roles in the top 10 players could also be based on popularity as well. Maybe people just enjoy playing tank more because you're the center of attention. However, if you die, then your team is in big trouble if the other tank is alive. Let's talk about support now in the competitive scene. According to esportstales.com, the top 3 most popular heroes in Grandmaster are Ana, Mercy, and Kiriko. But here's the kicker. Those 3 characters, with the exception of bronze rank, all show up as the top 3 heroes by rank in somewhat the same order, and the only difference for bronze is that Moira replaces Kiriko. Let's think about this, right? For every single rank in the game, supports are the most popular to play. And if it's the most popular, I would sort of correlate that with not as difficult to play, wouldn't you? I mean, would people purposely pick the most difficult role to play most of the time? I'm not sure. Support mains, don't hate me for saying this, okay, but those are just the facts. But let's think about the role of a support for a second. You pretty much are the glue that holds the team together. You heal, you do damage, you buff allies. Sounds like a lot of jobs in one role, so certainly not an easy task. Let's think about the role of DPS for a second. Your goal is to do most damage as possible and kill the most necessary targets in any team fight. Some people may see this as just point and shoot, but wait a second. Overwatch 2 has some weird character hitboxes. So if your job is to do the most damage to all targets, you have to be versatile enough to go from shooting a Reinhardt to shooting a Tracer. And I won't lie to you guys, from the games I've been in, it just seems like if there is no damage being done by the DPS, the game is pretty much a wrap, even if your tank and support are good. Before I tell you guys my decision, I did a poll on Reddit and I want to share some of the comments the poll got. Big ol' Stiffies says, I'm an Ana main and I'd say tank is easily the hardest, with support and DPS fighting for second hardest, but really depends on the matchup and map IMO which role is hardest. Jello Salad says, I generally find it harder to play support compared to other roles. In quotes, not talking about mechanical skills. Supporting, healing, and surviving simultaneously is very stressful and tense. They need to be fully aware the entire time of every single teammate and enemy. A random Russian says, no, DPS at the highest level requires the most game sense and mechanical skill. There's a reason there are more top 500 DPS that can play support and tank to a top 500 level than there are top 500 supports and tanks that can do the same. After really taking time to think about my decision, I just want to let you guys know I do not think the roles I'm not picking are easy. They are just not as hard as the role I'm going to make a decision on. And it was tough to say this, and it was tough to think about this, but I'm going to have to say the hardest role is DPS. Why DPS? Well, let's go back to the facts we know at hand, right? We know only 2 of the top 10 players in the world are mainly DPS players. We know that DPS is actually the least popular picked role amongst all the ranks in the game. And we also know that it's a lot harder to find top 500 players that are DPS mains. And just in general, it just seems like when no damage is being done, then you're pretty much at a loss there, because I mean, think about it, you know, the tank is doing their job, the healer is doing their job correctly, but if nothing's dying, then no objectives is gonna move, you know, you won't be able to take the point. So I am going with DPS for those reasons. And with that being said, let's finally place our vote in our own poll. Boom, DPS. All right, so that is actually the least. People think that's the least. People tend to think tank is the hardest. And I don't know, guys. I mean, I'm a tank main, and the fact that I can make it to high plat with a controller just makes me think it's not one of the hardest roles. If I could play controller on PC and make it at that level, not saying my skills aren't good, but, you know, those are the facts. But again, this is completely opinion based. Let me know what you guys think. Which is the hardest role for you in Overwatch, or what do you think is the hardest role just in general? From my poll, it says tank first and then support or healer. I put healer, but you know what I mean support, and then DPS last. But I actually think it is the opposite. I think DPS are the hardest, and then support second hardest, and then tanks easiest. But again, no role is completely easy, so it's up to you to decide. Definitely give a vote to the poll, and let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Let me know what you want to see out of me in the next video, what questions you want me to raise, and what research you want me to do. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Hope the best of your todays are the worst of your tomorrows. Peace out.